We are live.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started the January Planning Committee with our annual election for chair and vice chair. So I'm looking for nominations for chair. Councillor Scully.
I'd like to nominate myself, please, for chair.
Excellent. And is there any other nominations? Seeing no other nomination.
Sorry, I missed that.
Looking for any other nominations for chair.
No, who's been nominated?
Councillor Scully has nominated
okay.
herself.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Looking for any other nominations? Seeing none, Councillor Scully, you are acclaimed as chair. Looking for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Councillor Carpenter.
Councillor Carpenter, do you accept the nomination?
No, I withdraw, but thanks to my nominator.
Looking for any other nominations for vice chair? Councillor Sluss?
I'll nominate Dan McCreary. Councillor McCreary.
Okay,
I was just going to do that.
that's okay. Seeing as he's not here, we will hold the nomination to confirm that he accepts it at the next meeting. Councillor Scully, if you have the roadmap, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much. Roll call has been taken, Madam Clerk.
Through the chair, roll has been taken.
Perfect. Members of the committee, any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Any items that you would like separated, noting that we have item 7.1.1 that's already separated because we do have a registered delegation. Seeing that no one wants to separate anything, can I please get a mover and a seconder to place all items that are not separated on the floor? Moved by Councillor Sluss, seconded by anyone online? Councillor Van Tilburg, thank you. Any discussion? We'll now call the vote.
All items not separated for discussion carry on recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Scully, Sluss, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg.
Okay, so we do have one registered delegation for item 7.1.1, which is a zoning bylaw amendment. Now, because this particular individual has already appeared before committee, we do need a motion to waive the rules to allow for the presentation. So I was seeing if someone wants to put the following on the floor, which is that section 15.6.2 of the procedural bylaw be waived in order to permit a delegation who has appeared before committee to speak to a statutory public hearing matter. For purpose of background, this this was previously a statutory public hearing, which was deferred and is now back before us. And I don't believe we saw a presentation last time. I have Councillor Sluss moving that. Councillor Van Tilburg, did you have a question or are you seconding that?
Yeah, why would we have to change the procedure if it was a deferral? Would it not just be a continuation? I'm just asking for clarity.
I'll have the clerk answer that one.
Through the chair, after the last meeting, we had closed the statutory public meeting. When the item was placed on the floor, it became an item for consideration. So returning it back to a planning committee now, it no longer follows the statutory public meeting rules. It follows the rules for an item for consideration.
Oh, thank you.
I'll need a seconder to put this on the floor. Seconded by Councillor Carpenter, and this will require a 2/3 vote. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, we'll call the vote.
The motion to waive the rules carries on a recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Scully, Sluss, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg.
All right, so before our delegation, I'll just remind everyone that we're going to be polite and use courteous language. No banners or place cards will be displayed. All person addressing council shall speak only to the topic that we are discussing. And I will invite up Bob Phillips from JH Cahoon Engineering. reminding you, you have 10 minutes. That's inclusive of questions from the committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Short presentation. We're back with a memo and recommendation for approval for the rezoning application at 816 Colburn Street. We are in support of the memo, other than the owner would like to speak to one aspect of it. But generally, we're in support of the memo, and I'm just here really to answer any questions that the committee might have. This is David Winter, who's the owner of the property.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to talk a little bit. I think we're happy with everything that the staff has recommended. The one thing we would like to see considered is the parking ratio. Currently, we have submitted 1.06 spots per unit. Staff's recommending we revise that to 1.25. You know, just with the property being located within the intensification corridor, you know, it's outlined in the official plan that the aim is to provide significant opportunities for creating vibrant pedestrian and transit oriented places. A reduction in parking aligns with this goal by encouraging greater use of transit and active transportation. So, you know, in the official plan, these corridors are intended to strengthen the transit routes between our major commerce and employment nodes, and it's to be integrated with an active transportation network. So, like, our property has 2 bus stops within 80 meters that run every 20 minutes and has very close proximity to pharmacy, laundromat, grocery, several schools, healthcare service, parks and trails. So I think it's entirely feasible that the residents are able to rely on public transit or active transportation rather than personal vehicles.
Short and sweet. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, I'll have you take a seat and we're going to discuss this shortly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward, can I please get a mover and seconder to place this particular item on the floor, which is item 7.1.1, zoning bylaw amendment for 816 Colburn Street. Show of hands, guys. Councillor Carpenter, thank you for moving that. Seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg. Slow morning. Coffee hasn't kicked in yet, I guess, right? The committee will now consider this. Any discussion on the topic? All right, well, I have a few questions of staff. Seeing no one in queue to speak, I'll jump right to it. For staff, regarding the parking, I did notice that that was a bit of a discrepancy. I see that we have 1.06, but you are suggesting 1.25. Can anyone elaborate on that for us?
Through you to the chair, Jeff Medeiros, the manager of development planning with the city. This application was submitted in advance of our new council approved bylaw 124-2024. It was submitted under 160-90. Under that bylaw, a few things to consider. Stacked townhouses are permitted uses, so you have to establish regulations. But historically, with some of the developments in the city and comparable developments, this council has approved 1.5. We really haven't seen any parking ratios or reductions below 1.25 spaces for stacked townhouse units. So if you work from the standpoint that 1.5 is sort of the norm for a comparable type of development in the old bylaw, they're still getting a reduction of 1.25. The 1.25 is, I would say, is identical to what's been implemented in the new council approved bylaw. It's a number that staff are comfortable with. Typically with reductions in parking, there would be additional justification that would normally be provided to substantiate that reduction, and that just wasn't provided. So staff do feel that the 1.25 is appropriate for this development in this specific location of the city.
And when is there a garage and a driveway or just the one parking?
It's just surface parking. So stacked townhouse units typically don't have garages.
I should know that, shouldn't I? Thank you. I do see another discrepancy, and that's regarding the holding provision. So I see that staff recommend a holding or staff do not recommend a holding provision, but there is a holding provision. Can you elaborate on that?
Through you, Madam Chair. So as presented to this committee back in November, staff were recommending a holding provision, and through the statutory public meeting and up to this point in time, we do feel that, you know, the matters regarding the holding specific to access, not really zoning related, still a matter that hasn't been fully resolved, and but typically a matter regarding access is something that's typically geared at a site plan stage. The other component of the holding was some level of consultation with the public, and that has occurred. There has been, from my perspective, a little bit input from members of the public that had appeared at the previous committee meeting. And we feel that the holding removal would actually benefit the site in this, or not having the holding, sorry, would benefit the site in the event that if the owner just wanted to pull a building permit, he wouldn't have a holding in place. So a holding in place would actually prevent any sort of building permit issuance, whereas without it, he could build as of right, you know, 10 residential units, for example, and can go straight to a building permit stage.
Okay, that concludes my questioning, but I see Councillor Van Tilburg with his hand.
Yeah, so some time ago, we didn't actually have a terminology for stacked townhousing, but the Cachet development on Colburn Street where the old Canadian Tire was, that's considered stacked townhousing, is it not?
Through you, Madam Chair, that site has approval for stacked townhouses, but that particular product is more of a back-to-back and block townhouse product.
Okay, so that's why it has garages?
Correct.
I understand now. It's because their ratio is higher, is it not? Is it not higher than, I think it's like 1.5?
I'd have to pull the bylaw on that particular site. There's another site that is just around the block on Garden Ave, and it has a parking that was approved at 1.25. So there's a number of examples where committee has approved ranges of 1.2 to 1.5 for stacked towns.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Sless.
Thank you. Just on the parking issue, through you, Madam Chair, to Jeff, if there's overflow parking required, where would it go? Like, it would go off-site, but you're on a street where I believe there is no parking. So where would the parking go?
So through you, Madam Chair, to the ward councillor, typically for overflow parking, you're right, they would normally go to the adjacent streets. This particular street has no parking on Colburn Street. It's restricted. It's a 4-lane roadway. It's not intended for street parking. The closest street, I believe, is Hamilton Avenue, which is, you know, a short walk away. I would imagine that's where potentially some of the overflow parking would go in the event that there was overflow parking.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call the vote.
I have nothing popping up yet.
Okay. So the memo that we have before us is recommending an amendment to remove the holding provision, which would require an amendment on our part. And I see Councillor Van Tilburg, I believe that's what you're moving. Yes, okay. So the, if you're reading the report and the analysis, this is why I was confused. It says that staff are recommending that we move forward without a holding provision. So that would require an amendment from us to strike, assuming that's clause B, which would be the holding provision. I have that moved by Councillor Van Tilburg and seconded by Councillor Sless. So we'll call the vote on the amendment first, providing there's no discussion. Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
The amendment to remove the holding provision carries on for a vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sokoli, Sless, Carpenter, and Van Tilburg.
Any discussion as amended? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
The motion is carried on a recorded vote of 4-0. Those voting in favor, Councillor Secoli, Celeste, Carpenter, and Vanderpool.
All right. All right, there's no resolutions, no notice of motions. This meeting is adjourned.